It's Friday, and I'm back with the next in our Fanzine Friday series. Today we're taking a look at The Beholder, number 13. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer. This is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look. And today, from March of 1980, this is The Beholder, number 13. Hope you enjoyed the video. For those of you who celebrated, I hope you had a fantastic Christmas holiday. This is going to be our last video of 2024. I've had a lot of fun this year looking at a lot of different things and sharing those with the community. And today we continue our look at this fanzine called The Beholder. Mike Stoner and Guy Duke started this a year ago in March of 1979, and here is issue 13. It's the size we're used to, heavy stock cover, and then paper folded stapled down the side. Let's take a look at that cover. This artwork is not by Guy Duke. For the second time they've got an outside artist. This is John Hinton, and he's drawn a fantastic, iconic sort of D&D cover, right? You've got this door with the carved faces. Maybe there's a rune over top of it. I'll say Magic-Users holding up his torch, taking a look at that, trying to figure out what the heck's going on. You got those eyes, sort of looks like at the very top of the door. Almost makes the door look like it's a mouth, right? And then a couple of random adventurers or hirelings are with him here. You got some guy with a battle axe, another guy carrying a spear. Given how fearsome the door looks, unless there's more to this party than you can see here, I don't think these guys should go in because it does not look like something they would survive. But, you know, being D&D adventurers, I'm sure they'll go in anyway. Here's what's inside. A few large articles this time, so not quite as many in terms of number articles. We've got a short editorial, an article by Graham Staplehurst about life after death, a chronicle outlawed, which is a continued narration of a gameplay from an adventure in the world of the city-state of the invincible overlord, info, which is there are people looking to sell things or game with other people, some announcements about gaming groups, competition time, they announce a competition they're running, some information on Traveler, 16 Traders Row is our adventure, monster summoning, new monsters, and DMing Magic-Users, an article, some tips for the Dungeon Master. Of course, Mike and Guy do the majority of the content, but we have a few additions this time. Keith Andrews has an article, Alan Bell has a Graham Staplehurst, and then John Hinton did the cover art. In terms of the cover, remember this is a first print now that I have here, which is at 45 pence because they've raised the subscription price. And then there would be one at 50 pence. I don't have the 55. And then I have this one again here, which is at 60. Again, same contents. All they do is change the cover price and sometimes the color. Editorial is fairly short and sweet. They say apparently there have been some problems with stapling, so they apologize. I guess the magazines or fanzines were getting a little bit twisted or something with the stapling. They think they've got that figured out. They continue to ask you to give them feedback on what they're doing well and not so well. And it's odd here because in this editorial they say we have another scenario designed by Guy based on your feedback. You know, you guys really like his work, and I think Guy Duke's dungeons that he put in here month after month, very good. I mean, you sit down and try and think if you could do that every month, and remembering that obviously, you know, you had something else going on in your life, whether that was college or a job at the time. I think the output is quite good. What's odd about it is they say that, but that is not the adventure that is in issue 13. This one is from an outside contributor, so that's a little odd. Cover from John Hinton. They appreciate his art. Hope others will send in their art as well. And they have a little bit of a questionnaire, which is, I think, must have been inserted because it's not actually inside the pages of this, the stapled pages of this fanzine. And then again, they comment on their back issues. They're constantly getting requests for back issues, printing and reprinting those things, right? Have some copies of 3, 5, 6, and 7, and a little bit copies of the original print of 12 and 13. So this first article by Graham Staplehurst talked about life after death. He says, it struck me that AD&D is full of supernatural and undead, etc., but the death of the character usually is the last you ever hear of him or her. I'm going to say I've read the article. I think that's right. That's the way it should be, especially when I think about this. The article is very thoughtful, and he goes through rules that he would have put into place in the campaign for what happens to a character after death. And he goes, there's some special things: death by life draining, sacrifice, indenture of the soul like to a demon or devil, or a violent death such as torture or assassination. Frankly, if you're in D&D, every death is probably violent. I don't know very too many peaceful passing away. It's possible, but not normal, right? So here's the special outcomes. If you are killed by basically life drain from probably an undead, then per the monster manual and the DMG rules, you probably turn into that type of undead. If you're sacrificed, then your soul has been transported to that deity or semi, demigod or whatever it is, and you cannot be resurrected, and basically your soul belongs to them. The indenture to the demon or devil means you've made some type of a deal with them, somehow bound yourself to them, so at death you belong to them. And then if you're killed by violent means, this is the DM should allow you to haunt the perpetrator for a short period of time before we go on and kick into the way these rules are going to spell out your other options. Okay. So if that's not how you died, or you've haunted someone briefly there on the fourth option and now you're moving on, what do you get to do under his rules? So the first thing you could do is basically, nothing, and then your soul just dies after 1 year. In other words, no resurrection after that time. And of course, bad things can happen to your body if it's just laying around during the meantime. Druids can go to the elemental planes. Paladins can go to the seven heavens. Other neutrals can try to go to the elemental planes, but they don't have the guarantee that a druid does of that being successful. Other things you can try to do, you could opt to say you want to become some type of undead, especially if there's some sort of unfinished business or some evil connected with your death or to your character's alignment in general. You're going to be inactive, it says, for 1 year, and that's, I guess, why you're transforming into the undead, and you might choose to be raised from the dead, or someone might raise you from the dead even though you didn't think that's what you wanted. And you'll go to the negative material plane or positive material plane during that time, and then you become a free-willed undead creature. Based on your level, it determines what type of undead you can become, starting with skeletons at first level all the way up to, if you're at 12th level, you can become a lich. I think there's some special rules implied in how you become a lich, frankly, so I don't know that that's okay. But anyway, that's the higher your level, the higher the type of undead you could choose to become. You could choose to say you want to go to heaven or hell or something that passes for that in there. And then you basically have a chance to get in based on your alignment and the DM's sort of sense of how well you have been true to that alignment. And as I'm saying all this, and this is the thing that occurred to me as I read it, I don't see how that fits into the campaign, because most of the time one player gets killed, the other players do not. Unless you're going to go off and do a bunch of hours and hours of one-on-one role play with this person. And then and to what end, right? Are they going to come back and be integrated into the party as an undead creature? There's rules in here where you could be transformed into some type of a demon. You could come back as a spirit animal like a Kiren or Lamassu, a night hag, depending on your alignment. None of that, it seems to me, is a way for you to continue to role play this character in a meaningful way that integrates with other people. And since the whole game is supposed to be, in my view, sort of a social thing, I just, I don't see how this concept, although it's very well thought out, I don't see how this works in a campaign. So that's just, that's my view. Okay. Now we have a narrative. Remember, our party last time had, in a fit of anger, killed someone in the city-state. They'd left. They'd been attacked by the constables. One guy got dragged away. He escapes, and they took off on the run. So the next morning, they try to get the heck out of town. And they start off by leaving at dawn. Constables surround them. They get away. They make their way through the fog in the night, down the alleys and out the gate. They're out of the city-state. And then they head north. They find a cave, which happens to be the cave of a bear who's out hunting. They go into the cave. Unknowingly, apparently, it starts to rain, and they're just holed up in there. The bear comes back. It's sniffing around, and then this person called the Protector, who seems like she's probably a ranger, shows up and tells the bear basically to move on and not go into the cave. So it does. They wake up the next morning. They meet these guys who are a barbarian tribe from the Altanis, which is a section in the city-state wilderness maps we've talked about. And then they talk a little bit. They find out that the one guy has some type, basically like a ring of power from Tolkien. One of the player characters, he's been possessed. They slice him in the hand. Maybe they don't cut his hand off, but they cut his hand. He drops the ring. They scoop it up. That guy needs a week to recover. So now they've met these people and they're getting ready to go off on some type of an adventure. Some people set off after them. They make a random roll. It looks like the party is separated from the people that were chasing them, and that's kind of the end of this narrative. So I think it's interesting reading. It's pretty, for that kind of a narration of a campaign, it does read a little bit more like a story, so I like the writing style's pretty good. Not quite connected to these people yet. There has been basically no sort of character development at all with them, but, we'll see. Maybe this will pick up over time, right? And it shares some interesting ideas from their campaign, give you some insight into that. At least that campaign seems very true to some very traditional sort of tropes or themes with fantasy gaming. Info. This guy's got some books for sale, early White Dwarf magazines for sale. The Circle Battle Group Board and War Games Club is holding an annual show called Games Galore on May Day, which is a bank holiday over there. They announced TSR is setting up its UK subsidiary, TSR Hobbies Parens UK, and Don Turnbull's going to run that. They announced that The Beholder now is being read by people in the United States, Sweden, and New Zealand, in addition to the UK. Of interest to me, there's a new fanzine called Compendium I've never heard of before. Compendium is out now. It is the direct successor to 25 Years On. I think that's 20 Years On, unless there's two different fanzines with that similar name. Compendium is described as a directory of postal games magazines, services, and related information, edited by John Hopkins. So I'll be interested to see that. Anything that has a list of magazines sometimes has a list of RPG fanzines, and so I'm always sort of curious to get my hands on that. Never heard of that one before. They tease Brian Dalton, the guy who edits The Demon's Blood, and say he's useless at the game Space Invaders. And then they encourage you to take a break from D&D and play Superhero 2044. They say it's a fantastic game, and they enjoy it a lot. They announce a competition, the Great Contributions Competition. You can send anything you want and win this competition. So there's no guidelines other than send us something to make it good. It could be a dungeon, playtest, reviews, new monsters, magic items or spells, new character class, discussions about DMing or playing, anything you want. And we're just going to pick what we like the most, and you'll get £5, a pack of dungeon floor plans, and 10 issues of The Beholder, and then the reward goes down a little bit for second and third prize. There's an article in Traveler. I don't play Traveler, but I know a lot of people enjoy it. He's got some weapons and items that you could utilize here, as well as two new character professions, I think they call them. One is the intelligence agent, and the other one is the terrorist, and he sort of spells out all the different things you would need for that. Keith Andrews has our D&D adventure, and it is called 16 Traders Row. This is designed as a solo. It's for a low-level thief. It could be a solo. Maybe you have a second. Two thieves go together, but that's how it's designed. 16 Traders Row is the address of the person you're going after, and here's the drawing of the two-level, maybe it's three-level house, two levels, maybe a cellar house, and it's all pretty well detailed. You don't have any clear mission as far as I can tell, other than this guy, this merchant is named Saldo Radbus. He's a trader, and he has money, and so basically, again, as I read through it, you would just be breaking into this guy's house, avoiding detection, sneaking around, looking in rooms until you found something of value to steal. But there's no one thing that you're being sent there to get or to do. You're not being sent to kill the guy. And they even have a little play test in here where they show you what happened the first time they ran it. And these guys both got, two thieves went in together, and they both end up getting killed. So it's a fun, it's not great. It's pretty well detailed and thought out, I think. I don't know how much fun it would be. And of course, I always think this sort of one or two thieves and that's it. is great if that's what you have that night, right? Two guys who are thieves show up and nobody else wants to play, but otherwise, this kind of thing where somebody else is basically sitting out is not a whole lot of fun for your group. New monsters. I think we have some good ones this time. So here's the first one. This is my favorite. This is the Svarogich, or Sun Children. These winged humanoids with eagle-like heads and talons vary in color from dull red to rich gold. They're medium-sized. They obviously have flight. They can attack with claws or beak for 1 to 4 or 2 to 8 points of damage. They have a leader who will have 4d8 plus 4 hit dice and also has druid and illusionist powers of 6th and 4th levels, respectively. And he'll be guarded by 3 golden Svarogiches who have 3d8 plus 3 hit dice and have druid powers of the 5th level. And then they can be in lairs and obviously have a whole community there. I like them. I like these quite a lot. I think this is an excellent monster you could see inserting into your campaign, some type of wilderness encounter, etc. You could come up with a whole idea about where these creatures came from and why maybe they need your help or you're set against them. They have them be in neutral language or alignment, so you could kind of pick what you want to do there. Look at this crazy guy. This is a Grindle, the offspring of the union of a lesser devil and a human. Repulsive with long fangs, warty skin. They're fiends, fierce and voracious. And although they appear terrifying, their bark is worse than their bite. Armor class 5, 2 hit dice, and 1 attack for 2d8 points of damage. And basically, they'll attack anyone they see who seems to be enjoying life. This is pretty creepy. This is the Lost Heart, a spirit of a young child whose heart was removed during a ritual sacrifice or other evil ritual. And so they cannot leave the earth. They become essentially an undead, seeking to recover the heart to put back in their chest so they can rest or kill any evildoer they can find. Pretty creepy. And they are sort of invulnerable. If you attack them with a weapon and you roll a 20, you can't hit them. And it will dispel them. They will fall into a heap of dust, but may reform somewhere else. But that's it. That's the only way you can't really kill them, destroy them. They cause fear in people under 6 levels, so you get a saving throw on that. And I think they're undead, so you could try to turn them as a specter. This little guy is the non-mythological Cerberus. This is just a 3-headed dog with 5 hit dice. You can attack with 3 bites and 2 claws with their little front feet. And obviously with 3 heads, they're hard to surprise. So this guy I like the drawing quite a lot. This is basically looks like a human, except for at the head, you just have bones where the skull is. This is the Skull Fiend. 1d10 for hit points, plus 10. 7 foot tall, always wearing armor and carrying a sword. And they ride this bad boy, the Demon Mount, the red-haired camel with the unicorn horn. And a mace-like tail they can smack you with. Don't forget they can also kick you, bite you, and they are the preferred mount of the Skull Fiend. So there you go. These are fun. All right, look at this little guy. The Corridor. And it's 2 feet tall, little creature with this long, very hard beak. And they run up from behind, and they jump, and they drive that beak into your body if they can. They cannot penetrate plate mail armor, but they can penetrate any other type of armor with a successful hit roll, 2 hit dice. If they do that, they drive that beak in. As you might imagine, they're going to suck your blood out. Then they flatten their soft underbelly up against you, right? And the backside of them, you can see there is a hardened shell. And they flatten out so that you can only, you have to attack on the armor class 2 hard shell to do damage. And if you get near enough, their little tail can whip around. It has like a spiky end on it, and they can try and slice you or poke you with the tail. And And then once they hit you, then they're sucking blood, and they won't come off. 1 to 6 points of damage from the blood draining until they have taken 15 hit points from you. And then they're full, they'll drop off and run away. And they also say, because they know they're exposed, if they jump and hit and they don't successfully attack, they'll probably run away rather than try and make a second attack because if you attack them when they're not flattened out, they're armor class 5. They're going to be a lot easier to kill. And here's a little monster called the Lock Spirit. It's an undead turned as a shadow. They, for whatever reason, inhabit a lock, and they come out as a wisp of smoke. And it will the gaseous cloud will electrocute you for 1 to 8 points of damage. And they can only be hit by magic or silver weapons. And again, they're undead, so they can be turned. Okay, so this is DMing magic users, and these are suggestions for the dungeon master if he wants to place an NPC magic user as an opponent, probably the big bad guy, not necessarily, but that's kind of the thinking around how he's written this article. Just start by obviously rolling the character up, stats, hit points, etc. But think through these things. What is his place like? Why is it constructed that way? What's his background, habits? What does he like? What's his temperament? What's in the spell book? Does he or she have a familiar? And what's the motivation, right? Are they just hanging out? Do they have some particular goal they're driving towards? Are they just trying to be left alone and accumulate knowledge and wealth? What's going on? So that one, if the person is captured, what answers they would give to questions. What type of people or creatures would be around this magic user? Defenders, aides, slaves, whatever it might be. And then based on the personality and the background, to give you some sense of what should be in the spell book and what kind of spells that magic user might have memorized. He says a lot of people make the mistake of not picking logical spells. Maybe they know there's going to be a fight because it's in a dungeon. That's the purpose of why they've been put there, so they'll give them all offensive spells. Some people run them up randomly, and so they have no logic to why they have the spells they have. So you got to balance that out. Part of that would be whether this magic user is going to have any warning that a party's coming, right? So if it's a multi-level dungeon with defenses and maybe the party has to leave and come back, maybe the magic user has a lot more opportunity to do that. And remember, a magic user would protect him or herself, right? So they would construct something. You can't just walk into their study in the middle of the night and attack them unawares, right? There are going to be alarms, there's going to be traps, and obviously maybe human or demonic or inanimate things like golems as defenders to control the party. They also say, of course, a magic user being intelligent and being worried about being attacked or having the spellbook stolen probably sets up some type of defensive structures on the way to get to their lair, their study, their bedroom, or whatever. And they said you might even have killing zones where spells designed so that spells the magic user knows and will use can be used effectively. In a different magazine, someone talked about the Ogre Magi, which had a cone of cold. Maybe there's a cone-shaped hallway to get to that room so that they know they cast that cone of cold. It'll fill the hallway. There's no way for a character to avoid being inside the blast radius, as an example. So you got to give thought to all of those things. But, if you do, magic users can be a really great opponent because they're intelligent. They have magic at their disposal because they probably have magic items as well, so they could be very challenging, very thoughtful, clever, and it's a real test not just of brute force, but of the thinking power of the party to go up against a magic user, and obviously not just a magic user, because again, they're going to be surrounded by some type of defenses. The ability to overcome that can be a particularly rewarding challenge for the players. Back page, normal stuff, advertisement, copyright, contribution, subscription, and contact information. So that is it for our look at the Beholder number 13. These we're about halfway through looking at the Beholder at this point. I think it's issue 25 is the end of Mike and Guy's run. They turn that over, let someone else use the name and produce a few issues of the Beholder. And then there are some supplements where they collected some of the best of stuff from the fanzine, and we'll take a look at those as well when we get to the end. Hope you guys, again, have had a great holiday season. I hope you're ready for the new year. And I hope you're enjoying the video series, and I hope you're enjoying our channel, and I hope you're subscribed. If you have friends who might enjoy this, please send them our way. We're trying to build up our subscriber base and make our community continue to grow at the end of this year and into the new year. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. Hope you're playing some games with the people you love over the holidays. And until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.